Hello, everybody. Welcome back to book club. I know it's been 2 weeks since we've had a meeting. Last week we had a Hearthguard meeting, and so I wanted to prioritize that instead of having to have people leave that or, risk missing something. Let me turn that down a little bit. So sorry. So we are going to be reading through, well, not reading through, but discussing through 2 chapters this week. As you saw on the starting screen there, we are going to be reading through A Shortcut to Mushrooms. Again, I keep saying reading through. We're not actually reading through it. Discussing A Shortcut to Mushrooms and Conspiracy Unmasked. So that is chapters 4 and 5 if you're wanting to go by the numbers versus the titles. So yeah, we're gonna be doing that. I have my rogue, which I am drinking Snowstorm tonight because I need some little pick-me-up without the caffeine. So let's get into this. If you are finding me for the first time on this video, hi, welcome in. My name's Rose. I'm a variety streamer and I record these book clubs offline and then I post them. And pretty much every other day during the week, I'm streaming and I do all sorts of stuff. So if you like what you see here, please click that subscribe button and I hope to see you in future videos. So let's go ahead and get into this chat. Where's the button I'm looking for? This one. Hello.
No, I understand.
No, shush, stop talking about her. Stop talking about her.
No, I was trying to raving about the weird stuff he finds on the internet.
Oh, let's not discuss that here. Remember, not in my Christian Minecraft server.
It was the cheese that we were talking about. Yeah, cheese.
Okay. So, as I told our lovely studio audience, we obviously are. There's that Dodge Charger that is in my living room. Love the, ambiance of that. Thank you. We are going to be discussing through A Shortcut to Mushrooms, chapter 4, and then chapter 5, which is A Conspiracy Unmasked. Da, da, da. So, my goodness, dude, just drive away. Just drive away. Drive away. Okay, so Shortcut to Mushrooms. I think I mentioned this. I'll keep wanting to say last week, even though we did not meet last week. But when we last had our last meeting, I found it interesting how what we think of as Shortcut to Mushrooms from the movie reference is the scene that's actually in the previous chapter where they're like hiding under the tree and stuff. And then whereas like this chapter, I was like, wow, the movie did this chapter very differently. Just very, very differently. Which I thought was really, really cool. And as I mentioned before, I'm definitely going to need to go back and reread chapter 5. But I'm very excited to hear discussion about these this week. Because in my exhaustion, chapter 5, to me, nobody roast me in the comments for this, but to me, chapter 5, when I was very tired while reading this, I was kind of just like, okay, but I'm sure that's not what it's actually meant. But again, in the moment of tiredness from this weekend and stuff like that, yeah. Which, by the way, I have like I don't know, it's probably, I don't know if you can see it on no, you can definitely see it on my camera. I have a good, I think from the complete let's see, 1, 2. I have like a 5-inch bruise on my forearm to like lower bicep area from the archery practice on Saturday. So yeah, it's gnarly. She's getting purple. You can definitely see it on the camera. Bruise from archery. Yay, LARP bows. Anyways, so I was.
Why'd you do that?
It was during the like target practice part. I actually did okay when we were shooting at the Potter. And I did okay then, but we did like these like target practices where they were 4 stations. They were progressively further away, and the latter 2 ones, or the later 2 further away ones, I definitely was like overthinking it and, not maybe like hyperextended my elbow, but definitely like straightened my arm too much. And I felt it and I was like, that's gonna bruise. And sure enough, like I already could see it a little bit Saturday when I got home and got cleaned up, and then Sunday I started to see it, and I woke up this morning, I was like, oh, she's starting to turn purple and green. So anyways, but as we know, that's nasty. But as we all know, I am not an archer at Weekend Warrior, probably for the betterment of all. Okay, back to book club. So I will definitely be rereading chapter 5, but we will continue onward. So, shortcut to mushrooms for chapter 4, starting point. As I mentioned previously, I loved that it was so different because to me, again, as somebody who's seen the movies first and using them as kind of my frame of reference, I was like, whoa, surprise, like this is very, very different. And let's see. You know, it's like, as we already know, Merry and Pippin are already with them. I like the importance that like Frodo and them are like, well, you know, if we go through the fields, it's a straight shot, whereas going on the road, it's very much around, which, you know, as we know, it was all like, oh, stay off the roads as much as you can. And then I love this line from Pippin, the shortcuts make long delays. But then the Frodo's like rebuttal to that after the whole golden perch thing where he's like, oh, I want to go to the golden perch. Frodo's rebuttal of shortcuts make delays, but inns make longer ones. And I was like, ooh, like, ooh, you know.
Yeah, book Frodo's a lot sassier.
Yeah, I was like, oh man, like, snap those fingers, Frodo. Like, I was like, ooh, okay. Which was really, really cool. And then, let's see, I think it was shortly, let's see. I'm looking for the next little chunk I was thinking of, but anybody else feel free to hop in with anything. Oh, the whole song that they start singing, for me, it's midway on page 88, which I know everybody's is everywhere, but like the, to the bottle I go, to heal my heart and drown my woe. You know, that one. I literally sang it just like how the movie does it, which was really fun. And let's see. Oh, and then this was kind of neat. This whole like, you know, they're singing. And then, let's see, they began louder. They stopped short suddenly. Frodo sprang to his feet. A long-drawn wail came down the wind, like a cry of some evil and lonely creature. It rose and fell and ended on a high, piercing note. Even as they sat and stood, as if suddenly froze, it was answered by another cry, fainter and further off, but no less chilling to the blood. There was then a silence broken only by the sound of the wind in the leaves. And what do you think that was? Pippin asked at last, trying to speak lightly. But is it supposed to be quavering, or is it supposed to be quivering? Wavering. It's
Quavering.
I'm assuming that's like is that like a synonym to quivering? Quavering?
Yes.
Okay. Engineer, not somebody great with the English language. Yeah,
Well, this book happened to be written by a man who wrote the Oxford English Dictionary, so
yeah, I know.
You'll have to deal with a lot of that.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah, but then it was all like, you know, they're like, oh, it's a bird that none I've ever heard of, and they're like, no, it was a call or a signal. There were words in that cry, they could not catch them, but no hobbit has such a voice. And it was like, ooh, like that was kind of neat to kind of have almost like a linguistic backing to like the sound that we hear the ringwraiths make in the movies, that it almost is like a language, was kind of neat. It's not just right, but it's not just a sound. Like, it's not just like, oh, they make this sound, but there is something there, which was really, really cool.
You know, one thing that kind of blows me away, kind of reading from this book section, is just how far they walked in that day. Like it was, these are like 3 foot something folks, right? And they went, 18 miles was the straight line, and they went back and forth, because they did not follow the straight line.
Right.
So they would have gone, 20, 30 miles as a 3 foot something, short legged. These folks could walk all day long, probably more than I could.
Yeah, I would be keeled over at like mile 7 at best. Maybe 8 with a walking stick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. That was very impressive because, yeah, they do mention the whole like zigzags and everything else, trying to avoid stuff and everything. Yeah, like it's like, holy smokes, guys. Now the whole like farmer maggot stuff, this I loved because obviously, as we all read, the book is very different from the movie, which of course the book came first. But I love how in the movie he's portrayed as this like, craggy old man, which they do portray here. How Frodo's like, well, he ran me off like trying to get mushrooms, and like his dogs are gonna chase you down, and blah 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 blah. But then it's like he invites them in. He takes them on their next little leg of their journey in his cart, and then Mrs. Maggot even gives them mushrooms to take with them. And it's like, wow, what a nice man. What a nice hobbit.
Farmer Maggot's a ride or die.
Yeah, like I was like, wow, like the movie did not do him justice. And
No, it did not do him good at all.
yeah,
But it's funny because it's all based on the one thing where Frodo was like, he'd have rather gone, he'd have rather heard that the lane was leading to a slot going to a dragon's den, knowing what was tracing them. But that's the fear in his mind from growing up a farmer maggot.
yeah. And there was that line in here. I think it's after they get invited in, and Farmer Maggot's like, I still remember you from when you were younger, and you were coming to get my mushrooms. Like, don't think I forgot, Which I was like, wow, that's kind of cool too, from the standpoint of like he still welcomed Frodo in despite the history.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like literally the scene in the movie is just him with like the giant scythe, right? Or the big, not the scythe, but the farmer. It's like the.
No, it's a scythe.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't know if that was the technical term, but yes. Oh man, I got my first mosquito bite, I think, over the weekend. Oh my gosh, and it's right on that. It's right on that ankle, the knob on your ankle. Ugh. Okay, ankle bone. Oh gosh, I hate mosquito bites. Anyways, okay, sorry, derailment. Let's see. But yeah, he's talking about just cordial conversation, and then Farmer Maggot even mentions about like, he saw one of the riders and stuff, like right? I think, am I reading that right?
He like tells one of them off.
Yeah.
Yeah, Farmer Maggot's basically like that Middle English farmer who just like doesn't take anything from anybody. He's just like, "Oi, piss off, mate," and that's it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, nah, scram, go on, get.
Well, because I think in the part, here it is. Like the ring wraith actually speaks to him, which we do get a little glimpse of that in the movie, of the ring wraiths like talking in English, and everything. But I think that was to the gaffer, I remember our discussion from 2 weeks ago. And that was like, I think either right after Frodo had left, again in the timeline of the movie, or like the same night or whatever. But it's like, he's saying, like, have you seen Baggins? And then he's like, be off, there are no Baggins here, you're in the wrong part of the Shire. And he's like, Baggins has left, and if he passes, will you tell me? I will come back with gold. He's like, no, you won't. You'll go back where you belong. Double quick. I give you 1 minute before I call all my dogs. And I was like, ooh, he's gonna run you out of town. But yeah, very much so that like, get off my lawn, but actual like there's some gumption behind what he says and not just words only.
Like the Hobbits.
The what?
Like the Clint Eastwood of Hobbits.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. And then, he's trying to give him good advice.
I love Farmer Maggot also talking crap about the hobbits from Hobbiton, and Sam keeps getting offended by it.
Where's that? Did I miss that when I read?
That was
Is that after they talk about when the ring wraith stopped by?
No, he's talking about when Frodo. I'm trying to find it, but because Frodo. No, he's talking about you should have stayed in Buckland, Frodo. Don't go to Hobbiton where all the queer folk live. And then Sam, sat there cross talking.
Sam goes into that conversation upset though.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you've had the sense to come back to Buckland. I found that. That's shortly after the for me it's on page 93.
Where was it? I know I heard that. It was on my walk when I was doing that.
It's after it's a couple at least the Buckland line is a couple paragraphs after the retelling about the ring wraith encounter. Where's the part with Sam?
Right before the ring wraith encounter, he says, Sam sipped his beer suspiciously. He had a natural mistrust of the inhabitants of other parts of the Shire, and also he was not disposed to be quick friends with anyone who had beaten his master, however long ago.
So then the one part goes, then I'll tell you what to think, said Maggot. You should never have gone mixing yourself up with Hobbiton folk, Mr. Frodo. Folk are queer up there. Sam stirred in his chair and looked at the farmer with an unfriendly eye.
Yep.
Page 93 or so.
Yep.
Yeah. And it is interesting that, like, even though they are all hobbits, they still have, like, opinions of each of the different, like, boroughs, regions, whatever the technical... The what?
Farthings.
Yeah.
The Shire is broken up into the 4 farthings.
Ah, right.
And then Buckland, which is outside the farthings, it just makes them even weirder.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, and it like talks about Farmer Maggot's family, like they're all eating dinner together. Yeah, and his wife's like, you come back, don't talk to any strangers.
Any foreigners?
Oh yeah, foreigners. Yeah.
Much more particular.
Yep. Yeah, he took them 5 miles to the ferry, which I'm sure after all that walking from that day was, glorious. Oh yeah, so Mary meets them there, and which is good, and then yeah, and it's like even Farmer Maggot's like, no, I caught him trespassing, and yet you invited them in for dinner. Yeah, and then he gives them the basket of mushrooms. And that gave Frodo kind of a good little chuckle, because it's like, again, remembering back to his childhood, and it's kind of like, yeah, I remember why you first came onto my property all those many years ago. It was to get mushrooms. Here you go.
And I do like where he's like, it's all's well as ends well, though perhaps we should not say that until we reach our own doors. And it just reminds me, I don't know if you might be a bit on the young side. Remember the movie City Slickers, where they're talking to one guy's like, you kill anybody today? And he's like, day's not over yet.
I don't know that one.
It was a good movie.
He's one of y'all, so I don't feel too old now.
You shouldn't feel old, buddy. It's just been forever since I've seen it.
But the day's not
Yeah,
over.
that was a good movie. I like that one.
But that's a good line too, just in general, because it's like you might be having a great day or whatever at 2 o'clock, but it's like the day is still young. There are still many hours left for you know what to hit the fan.
Anything can happen.
Yeah. I mean, or it could go even more amazing, obviously, but you know, it's like don't count your chickens before they're hatched. All of those really good kind of lines like that. Okay, so take me through chapter 5, friends. What did you guys enjoy about chapter 5? Fill me in, because I read it, like I said, but definitely got a little tired throughout it, so I definitely need to go back and reread it. So you guys lead the way here, and I'll chime in when I can. What about 5 do we love?
I know one thing that I really love about 5 is how you find out, how long this conspiracy of them has been going on for, right? Like in the movie, it seems like, oh, they just kind of stumbled into going along with them. Whereas here you find out that one of them, knew about the ring and saw Bilbo use it, which since we had a 17-year gap between when Bilbo left to now, so they've kind of known about the ring and had seen the book and, other stuff about the adventures for, 17, 18 years at this point, some of them, without ever talking to Frodo about it. So it's a crazy amount of time that they kept some of this stuff in. But, it's great to see that they were like, these are the ride and die folks, right? They were like, we're going with you, whether you want us to go or not. We've been planning on all this stuff. And it just, I just love the friendship that they're clearly showing for him that comes across in here. Just,
Sure.
Yeah, we know you're going into some serious danger, but we're not letting you do it alone.
Well, there is the line too where they ask Frodo, like, wait, you haven't read the book? And right, isn't that's in here? And they're talking about the there and back again, I think, and everything. Sure. And it's like, no, he took it with him. Like, I haven't seen it. He's like, I think he says he like saw a little bit of it at one point, but hasn't read the entirety of it, if I remember correctly.
Which would have been before Frodo left, because Frodo took the book with them.
Bilbo
took the book with them. So that was a couple decades earlier almost.
Oh, here it is. Here it is. Let me see where like the best place to start this is. Oh yeah. Oh wait, let me let's see here. Oh, here we go. He's like, of course we understand, said Merry firmly. That is why we have decided to come. We know the ring is no laughing matter, but we are going to do our best to help you against the enemy. The ring, said Frodo, now completely amazed. Yes, the ring, said Merry. My dear old hobbit, you don't allow for the inquisitiveness of friends. I have known about the existence of the ring for years, before Bilbo went away, in fact. But since he obviously regarded it as a secret, I kept the knowledge in my head until we formed our conspiracy. I did not know Bilbo, of course, as well as I know you. I was too young, and he was also more careful, but he was not careful enough. If you want to know how I first found out, I will tell you. Go on, said Frodo faintly. It was the Saxville Bagginses that were his downfall, as you might expect. One day, a year before the party, which would have been what? How many years, you said? 17?
Yeah, it was like 17 years earlier.
So it'd be 18 years then, before then? One day, a year before the party, I happened to be walking along the road when I saw Bilbo ahead. Suddenly in the distance, the SBs appeared coming towards us. Bilbo slowed down and then, hey, presto, he vanished. I was so startled that I hardly had the wits to hide myself in a more ordinary fashion, but I got through the hedge and walked along the field inside. I was peeping through into the road after the SBs had passed and was looking straight at Bilbo when he suddenly reappeared. I caught a glimpse of gold as he put something back in his trouser pocket. After that, I kept my eyes open. In fact, I confess that I spied, but you must admit that it was very intriguing, and I was only in my teens. I must be the only one in the Shire besides you, Frodo, that has ever seen the old fellow's secret book. You have read his book? Cried Frodo. Good heavens above, is nothing safe? Which just reminds me of the, like, is nothing sacred? Not too safe, I should say, said Merry, but I've only had one rapid glance, and that was difficult to get. He never left the book about. I wonder what became of it. I should like another look. Have you got it, Frodo? No, it was not at Bag End. He must have taken it away. All that, and everything. It's like, yeah, that's nearly 20 years that Mary, right? Yeah, Mary has known about the ring. And like you said, it's like he hasn't said anything to Frodo, but he's willing to go along with everything despite the danger. And it's like you said, like, wow, that is real ride or die friendship energy right there. So it's just like, wow.
And so much more deliberate than we're running from Farmer Maggot and we'll just stay on the road and keep going.
Yes. Because I guess the first time in the movie, correct me if I'm wrong, the first time in the movie they see him use the ring is at the Prancing Pony in the movie. I think, right? Because he gets knocked over in the movie and the ring like pops out of his pocket or whatever, and it just so happens to perfectly land on his finger. And then they're like,
Mary or Pippin said that Baggins was his name when he was trying to get a pint.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Frodo Baggins. It's right over there. Twice removed, only on my mother's side.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, exactly. And in the movie it's kind of conveyed like, oh my goodness gracious, what just happened? Where did our friend go? Kind of thing. Whereas like you said, Mark, it's like in the book, it's very much like, nope, this has been going on for a while. The existence of this we have known about for a while. You're good.
It speaks to the incredible patience and foresight of hobbits.
Sure.
Yeah.
Like they plan these things years in advance, and they wait, and it's astonishing because it's like, oh, like we're not in a rush. It'll happen.
Yeah. Which is so contradictory to like our way of life now in 2024. Yeah. Everything's so rapid and so need now, gimme. So yeah, very, very good point there. Let's see.
As far as thinking other parts, I love when they're going across the Buckleberry Ferry, and that's where we get the, Sam had never gone that far over the river before, so that I guess that's if I take one more step, Frodo, it'll be the furthest I've ever been. Well, because that wasn't clearly from anywhere earlier in, but they do talk about he had never crossed the river before. So that was the bringing in this is the furthest I've ever been before.
Right. Whereas in that, they weren't with Merry and Pippin and they were just in some field. No, absolutely. I also just kind of chuckled at the, where was it? The horses swimming comment. It's just funny where it's like, can horses cross the river? It's like, oh boy. I mean, I guess, when you're running from kind of an unknown figure, it's like your brain probably goes to the wildest of places, but I just found that funny.
Well, and it's funny too because we have a very clear moment, before they reach Rivendell where horses and rivers do not cross very well.
Yes.
Lord of the Rings, yeah.
Yes, and I do remember, I know we're not there in the book yet, but I do remember in the movie, in the special features, how, like, I think it's actually, like, obviously, like, Arwen has, like, the whole connection with the water and stuff like that. But it was also something like the ring wraiths have, like, fear of it is not necessarily the right word, but like they have kind of an aversion to water. Am I remembering that correctly in the special features? I think there's some discussion about that scene where it's like there's a reason why they were reluctant to follow her across the river, or something.
I remember something like that. But there's also like a kind of a part of the Western myth of rivers is that like evil can't pass them very easily. So they might have been borrowing on that as well.
Very cool. Huh. And I mean, we have already seen
that also comes along with vampires. Vampires can't cross running water. It's a common belief that like evil creatures couldn't cross running water.
But I also think it was also the border for Rivendell,
Oh,
which might have given them some cause to, think it over.
sure, sure.
Yeah, it probably had a magical ward upon it.
Interesting. That's a good point. Which I'm sure we'll talk a ton when we get to that, which I would assume we're not terribly far away from, in the length of chapters and stuff. But, let's see. Anybody else have any? I'm skimming to try and remind myself what I read.
I'm a big fan of this chapter just because we get introduced to the fifth unsung hobbit in Fatty Bulger,
Oh yeah.
who's also a ride or die. Like that dude. He misses out on the adventure, but he has a really important role too.
In this chapter or coming up?
Is it this chapter? I can't remember.
Right. It's in this chapter where he says he's staying behind, but he's staying behind very deliberately to make it seem like Frodo's still in the Shire.
Right.
And even knowing who's coming looking for him, he's like, "I'll still do it."
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah. Again, I'm gonna have to definitely go back and reread this.
Frodo's at his house, and in the book they said that he would even come to regret that later.
Regret what?
Having some of Frodo's clothes at his house to
Oh.
show that he stayed there.
Do we know, this might be foreshadowing to something coming up, but do we know if he lives or dies in the
I'm
book?
pretty sure he makes it.
Yeah.
Because without too many spoilers.
Oh, that's fine.
The Shire's not undefended.
Okay. I was just curious because again, he's not in the movie, so I was like, well, I don't know.
Right.
But no, well,
I'm pretty sure he dies. Or he doesn't die. He's not a pony.
oh, thank goodness. Oh, thank goodness. What a
Ponies
miracle.
also do a lot better in Lord of the Rings in general.
Yep. It's definitely the moral that we came up with from The Hobbit is doesn't love them in The Hobbit, much better towards ponies in the Lord of the Rings. Yep.
The one pony.
Just one pony. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I definitely wish I would have reread this chapter with fresh eyes, but that's okay.
They called the pony Bill.
Bill. Just such a humble name. I like
It's
it.
a random name. It's my dad's name, which made me laugh.
But it's such a humble name. It's just like Bill. Bill the pony. Let's see.
And I know it's kind of a weird thing at the end where Frodo's having the dream of apparently the sea and smelling the sea and the feel for it, which is comes up a couple of times in the books. And if you read some of the other, can't remember if it's Unfinished Tales or other things, but the sea, I don't want to say, it's kind of interesting. They talk about it a lot for the elves. And I don't occasionally for men, but I don't know if you ever have any other hobbits talking about having that kind of visions of the sea, which generally leads to the visions of going kind of across to the sea to the undying lands and all. So just kind of an interesting foreshadowing of where he'll end up eventually in his journey, much further down the road.
Right, because there's even like this whole looking up, he saw before him a tall white tower standing alone on a high ridge. It's a great desire came over him to climb the tower and see the sea. He started to struggle up the ridge towards the tower, but suddenly a light came in the sky and there was a noise of thunder. Yeah, like very good point, Mark. Very, very good foreshadowing that for somebody reading this book who has no inkling of the movie's outcome or anything at all, like reading this pre-movies, they would have been like, huh, that's an interesting dream to have. Moving on, probably wouldn't think much of it just because, with no frame of reference like the movies, why would you think anything of that really? Let's see. Oh yeah, here's that line of on the whole, I would rather have our job than Fatty's waiting here till Black Riders come. Yeah. It's very interesting. Like I said, definitely I'm gonna need to reread chapter 5.
It's more of a character development chapter than anything, just kind of showing that Frodo's not alone and how great of ties and of friendship that all the hobbits have with each other.
Sure. I definitely agree with you on that. Like, even though I didn't, maybe fully absorb this chapter, that I did pick up on of like, this was very character and like bonds of friendship building and, stuff like that. I was like, So, yeah. Well, does
Which I find it interesting too, because the next several chapters that we have
Mhm.
are all kind of a lot of action kind of things occur in them,
Mhm.
none of which is in the movies. So you got some interesting stuff to look forward to reading coming up.
Ooh, okay, I like that. I like that. Well, I mean, we're a bit ahead of schedule, but does anybody have any other comments about this chapter?
We're still discussing 5, right?
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting about the whole how they're going through the woods and the trees were moving, and you know they were having trouble finding the light. The singing really upset the trees, and at one point Sam had to save Frodo from one.
Is that
So that's in 6.
That's in 6.
That's part of the old forest.
Yeah, I was like
No,
that.
that was in 5. I read 5 like right before I finished 5 like an hour ago.
They're going into
Yeah, they haven't actually got into the forest. They were prepping it and they were talking about the forest, but yeah, they don't actually go into it till the beginning of 6.
Oh, maybe then Spotify went a chapter further than I expected. My bad.
Oh, good. Spoilers, Raven. Spoilers.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. Okay. Well, any other words? Any other final comments from this chapter before we wrap up for the evening?
Well, I think both of these chapters, more evidence of the singing, more so than I think of being kind of later on in some of the other chapters in the books. It's nice having the book, and then I was listening to the audible version of it with Andy Serkis doing it. So it's always great hearing him do the singing parts for that. But I don't know if there's a ton of singing coming up, but just definitely several examples of that, of the poetry and the singing kind of within the book, within these chapters, which is always nice.
For sure.
I will say that actually threw me off. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
It's been so long since I read them that I had forgotten how much poetry and singing was actually in it.
How could you forget? You shame yourself. You shame your bloodline.
Yikes. Yikes.
Give me a break.
So dramatic.
I know. I'm so shameful. I deserve that.
Shame. I just think of the Game of Thrones with the bell. Shame.
Exactly.
I did there was one book chapter reading that we did in The Hobbit that I did the audiobook for the same reason, Mork, just like kind of ran out of time for the week and everything, and it was one that had more singing in it, and it was the Andy Serkis one. And so I agree with you, it's like very cool to hear him either recite those lines or sing, like the whatever kind of combo version he kind of does. It was really cool to actually hear that performed in an audio reading versus just him reading it. So I agree with you, like very cool.
And then they had the song at the end of the chapter where you read the one line and then the whole thing clicks. You're like, we must away ere break of day.
Yep.
Over wood and mountain tall.
Yep.
It's just, you read the one line that, okay, now I've got it. I'm singing this now to myself.
Yep. Very much so.
And I like how they said this was based on the dwarf song, or based on went to the same tune, so it made it easy to think about this song with that tune.
Sure. Absolutely. Alrighty. Well, nobody else has any other comments about chapter 5. Guess we'll probably just wrap it up there for the night a little early. I'd say that just looking ahead, just page numbers wise, it looks like chapter 6, The Old Forest, and chapter 7, In the House of Tom Bombadil. Oh gosh. That equals, give or take, I'm just gonna round because I don't feel like doing math right now, about 30 pages of reading, at least in the version I have, which is a little less than what we've been doing. We've been doing about 40, but obviously going into chapter 8 will push us well over 40. Actually, yeah, it'll be exactly 40 actually, but with 3 chapters. But for the sake of next week book club, from the standpoint of covering everything, let's just stick with 2 chapters, I think. So we will do chapter 6, The Old Forest, and chapter 7, In the House of Tom Bombadil, for next week's reading, if that is cool with everybody. Cool.
Sounds hype.
Sweet. Well, thank you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and wrap this one up, but thank you guys for coming and helping me through chapter 5 and everything. And I always love this, and sorry we missed last week. I just wanted to prioritize that meeting in the Discord, but for anybody that wanted to attend and everything. So we'll be back next week if all goes to plan. We'll be back next week for chapter, what did I just say? 6 and 7? 6 and 7.
6 and 7, yeah.
6 and 7. Okay, chapter 6 and 7 for next week. So until next week, friends.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
See everyone later.
Bye.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Just.
All right, chat. So great discussion again this evening. I definitely very much enjoy discussing with them about these chapters. I did not realize how tired I was after this weekend's one-day LARP event, so I'm definitely going to give myself the homework of rereading chapter 5 again to pick up on some of these things that we discussed about tonight. But yeah, love discussing with these guys who've read these books countless times compared to me. So I'm very thankful for them and their friendship, and being willing to go through this with me. So as we said, we will be reading through this week. We will be reading through chapter 6, The Old Forest, and chapter 7, In the House of Tom Bombadil. So if you want to read along with us, those are the 2 that we're going to be doing this week. If you made it this far in the video, thank you so much for sticking around. Please consider hitting that subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated by me. And come back for more book clubs. Go back and watch some old ones or watch my other stuff. Anything is perfectly fine. I appreciate any and all support. If you do find this YouTube video and you catch me on one of my streams, pop in, say, hey, I'm from YouTube. Like, excuse me, I ran out of air. That just makes me so happy. So I hope to see you guys later. Maybe I'll see you in one of my streams. And until next time, I am going to go and end it here. So good night, everybody.